Good morning, church. We're going to be in Mark 14 today, and I want to just remind you this morning that God is for you and that He loves you and He's passionate to save you. The book of Mark is so action-packed, and throughout it, we see this rising tension that Jesus is talking about His coming suffering. And the disciples are uncomfortable with that, so they keep trying to kind of push that aside. And in Mark 14, we find, Jesus is anointed for burial with this jar of expensive perfume, and there's tension over that. He has his last supper with his disciples, and he reveals that one of them will betray him, and there's tension over that. And they all pledge their loyalty, and Peter says, "I will even die for you." And Jesus predicts Peter's denial. And then they go to one of Jesus's favorite places, the Garden of Gethsemane. One of my favorite places during this quarantine has been Guahomie Lake. It's just a regional park where I like to go. It's quiet. It's a place where I can get alone and be with God. And Jesus goes to that place. He goes to that place with his closest friends to be with God and to pour out the tension, the anguish of what he's dealing with. He asks the disciples to sit and keep watch with him. And he's sorrowful to the point of death. And he's crying out all this to God, not my will, but yours be done. And I think about the many, many times when I've been confronted with what I want and it being in conflict with what somebody else wants or what God wants. I remember before we got married thinking, I've got this thing down. I'm willing to do anything for this man I'm going to marry. And then we got married and I'm like, ew, I kind of don't like some of this stuff that I'm having to deal with. Or again, just before our first baby was born, thinking, okay, we got this marriage thing going. We're going to have a baby. I'm ready for this. And then my baby's born, and I realize I don't have anything that's my own anymore. I don't have my body that's my own, my schedule that's my own, my calendar's not my own. And I get to come to that tension of not my will, but yours be done. And in this passage, Jesus asks his disciples to pray with him, and they fall asleep. They keep falling asleep. And I love, Jesus says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And the Message translation says, stay alert, be in prayer, don't be naive. Part of you is eager, ready for anything in God. But another part is as lazy as an old dog sleeping by the fire. I feel that tension in me. There's part of me that's ready to do anything in God. God will do anything for you. But part of me is as lazy as an old dog sleeping by the fire. I don't want to give up my patterns. And I think this coronavirus situation has revealed that tension in all of us. That tension between what we want and what is, but between what is we want and what might be. And we live in that tension. And I want to invite you to allow God to come into that tension. It's into those tension places that our growth happens. It's where we can grow the most, and we can relax into the knowing that God is for us no matter what, even when what we want is in conflict with what he wants, that God is at work in us. So I invite you to pray into those places, those tension places, and to ask God, what is it you want? Have a great day, church.